Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of today's guests, including Kevin Woodley, standing by, brought to you by the Bayside Oceanfront Resort. Book your stay at the Bayside and enjoy the many amenities the hotel has to offer. Oceanfront rooms, free parking, oceanfront restaurant, cafe, indoor and outdoor swimming pools, gym, and more. Call 250-248-8333 or go to their website, BaysideResortParksville.com. Just before we get to Kevin Woodley, this is from Dwight. Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox, and you can show the photo here.
Yeah.
Dwight texting in, I like the Ken Dryden trivia, one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. I often assumed the pose while playing goal in road hockey, and for people who aren't old enough to remember, or maybe you are old enough but you don't remember this, Ken Dryden, everybody made a big deal about this. Him watching the play at the other end of the ice. Yeah. This often happened with those powerful Montreal teams, leaning on his Sherwood goal stick.
I thought it was because he was bored, because the play was always at the other
that's
end.
what I'm saying.
But somebody said there's another reason why he did this. It's not because he was bored.
It was a quirk of his.
Yeah.
What's the other reason?
I don't know. Somebody actually.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought that up.
I will Google why Ken Dryden had this pose. It was
just a habit.
There was a reason for it. I'm telling you, there was a reason for it, and it wasn't because most of the play, 90% of the time, these teams are unbelievable. It was really tough watching the Canadians because Donnie, they were so good.
Well, nobody did it before or since. This was strictly Ken Dryden.
Yeah, it was strictly
goaltenders. Kevin will tell you they have all sorts of quirks. I remember Richard Berduro would make a save and he'd skate to the corners. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Back in '82. No, you don't. Okay.
Of course I do. Anything in the 80s.
All sorts of talk regarding Canuck goaltenders right now because of the injury to Thatcher Demko. So we thought we'd bring in from NHL.com, InGoal Magazine, Kevin Woodley. Kevin, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm good. And if we had me on a wider screen, or if I do I dare move my screen, Ryan? Oh, I probably shouldn't do that. In the corner there, there's Mr. Dryden.
Oh,
there's Mr. Dryden. And his pose that was painted by my daughter. I thought for a moment you guys were going to ask me to reveal the tattoo of the same thing I have of that painting, basically up and down my whole arm. But nobody wants to see me take my shirt off on television, so we're going to leave that one alone for today. To answer your question, the reason there was a level of intimidation, and I am not fazed by any of this. I'm just taking it all in. There, if you read the book, The Game, he talks a little bit about that. There was a sort of deliberate act of sort of psychological intimidation behind that pose. It was after goals as well. It wasn't just when the play was at the other end of the ice. It was just, I am unfazed. I am unintimidated. You cannot get to me. Yeah. I'm above it all.
Yeah,
and he was. There were so many quirky elements to his game. The number 29 was strange at the time.
It was.
The Sherwood goalie stick was unique at the time. Just how tall he was. Ken Dryden's one of the great goaltenders in National Hockey League history, and of course, 1972 Team Canada on top of the success with the Habs. Hey, Kevin, sorry, I'm rambling here. You're in the know when it comes to Canuck goaltenders. Do you have any idea how serious this Thatcher Demko knee injury is?
I defer to Rick. He's in the know on everything, to be honest with you. So it's one of those things where when you're the goalie insider and you have access to the goalies directly, and there are some things and some lines that you just don't cross, and pushing on injuries is one of them. So I'll be blunt on that. I'd heard the same as Rick has reported that it was a knee. I would trust Rick and Farhan Lalji in terms of what they're saying about timelines and defer to them. I mean, they've got the connections with everyone else around the game. And, that's good news for the Vancouver Canucks. The one thing that worried me when I heard knee was typically, for goalies, like, show me a butterfly goaltender that doesn't have strains in his MCL, and I'll show you a guy that doesn't have a very wide butterfly. That's a pretty common injury. But also the time frame on it is typically more in a, closer to 4-week window on the upside. So that would indicate if the reports of it being more 2 to 3, maybe 4 at the max, it would indicate it's pretty minor. And that's good news. I think if you remember Ryan Miller, when he strained his MCL, I think it might have been a second-degree tear, he was 4 to 6. Remember, he came back in the playoffs against the Calgary Flames, spelled Eddie Lack. But when I talked to him later in the summer, it wasn't until late July, early August that he was cleared to play in the playoffs, but it wasn't until late July, early August that he actually felt better and felt like himself. It's a tough injury for goaltenders because the nature of the butterfly puts so much stress on the MCL. And so to hear that this one appears to be short-term is good news for the Vancouver Canucks. And for Thatcher Demko, who in the past week was playing more like the guy for the first 6 weeks, the best goalie in the NHL.
Kevin, what were you thinking, and we talked about this yesterday regarding overplaying, what were you thinking when the Canucks played Thatcher Demko 11 of 13 games in a tough February?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the overall workload, it grades out to about, 61? He was on a 61-game pace, which isn't crazy. You could quibble a little bit since the All-Star break, especially given how tough that schedule was, how often they rolled him out. But it's kind of human nature when the team was scuffling for a bit that you want your best guy in there. Obviously the Minnesota game wasn't on Casey DeSmith, wasn't all on Casey DeSmith. They were all a lot of great days, a lot of 5-on-3s, and yet that may have made it a little tougher for a little bit for the Canucks to go back to him. I mean, it was kind of the schedule too, right? Like the way you looked at this week, yes, DeSmith gets Anaheim, but you were going to your number one guy in LA, in Vegas against Winnipeg. And the irony is they just needed to get through the game on Saturday and everything would have been fine. Lots of time to rest, lots of time to sort of get the body healed up and sort of focus on making sure he was at 100% heading in the playoffs. Now they'll just have to do it a different way. Get him rested, get him healthy, work with Ian Clark in practice, and then hopefully get a handful of starts in before the season. I know a lot of people are like, oh no, will he be up to speed? Listen, as long as he can play a couple games, I look at the preseason, starting goalies only play 2.5, maybe 3 starts in a preseason to get ready for the year. And when you look at how Demko started this year, like I said, first 6 weeks of the season, he lapped the field. He was the best goalie in the league. So I think you look at that as an optimist and say it's not going to take him much if he feels healthy in terms of games played to get back up to sort of peak level.
All right, well, let's talk about who moves to the forefront, Casey DeSmith. This isn't a guy, Kevin, that just plays 10 or 12 games a year. He had a career-high 38 games for the Penguins last year, so he's a guy that can come in and so what are your thoughts on him handling the load for possibly a month?
Well, first off, my thoughts are that he wears number 29 because of Ken Dryden, a conversation we've had in the past. So segue you guys,
That's true. Yeah.
Segue you guys back to where we started. Second off, like ideally, the hardest part as a backup is playing every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And in a perfect world, you want a guy who can do that, which Casey has done, and then a guy that can also give you 2 straight weeks, right? And sometimes those aren't the same thing. And I think that the fact that Casey's done it in the past bodes well. The fact that Casey's best performances of the year were sort of, I'm thinking like that road trip where they went through Ottawa, where remember there was a lot of conversation about how much they were playing him, but look at how well he played in those stretches, right? So I think the Anaheim game is a great bounce back. Again, like I don't blame him for Minnesota, but that's a tough thing to come back from mentally. It sewered his numbers for the whole season. He probably won't recover statistically from that game, but the game in Anaheim helps. The performance in relief the other night against Winnipeg helps, and now he has a chance to build a little momentum for a guy who, has played well at times when he's played more. And, if for whatever reason it doesn't go as well as they'd like, I'm pretty sure as much as Nikita Tolopilo has been an exceptional story, first-year pro in North America, the sort of charge he's made here to push for a number one job in Abbotsford, we've seen what Seelovs can do in the NHL already. His 5-game stretch last year, to me, was impressive because it got better every game. And so if you need to, you have him to go to as well. Like your perfect scenario as an NHL team is workhorse, stud number one, a guy who can give you good starts every 2 weeks as the backup, and a guy in the minors who has the potential, if you need him for 2 weeks or a month, might have a higher upside than the guy who's your backup. And I think they've kind of got that set here. And so it'll be Casey's chance. He's got enough pedigree to get a chance to run with it. But if they feel they need more, again, higher upside, because DeSmith has only given up 2 bad goals, 2 low danger goals all season. Wow. And for goalies that have played as much as him, the only guy who's given up less, he's just sort of crept into that territory of having played as much as Philip Grubauer. Like it's one of the best results. And that's what you want for your backup. Don't give up bad goals. And so if that's enough, great. If they decide they need a higher ceiling, Seelovs is there as well. So I'm kind of curious to see how this pans out over the next couple of weeks to see if Casey can grab the reins or to see if we get a little bit of a mix of two.
Okay, I'm told that Seelovs will be called up by the Canucks today. So give us how has he been in the American League this year in Abbotsford? Any
Other than that goal against Ontario the other day.
We showed a goal that Seelovs let in from center ice. I think
you guys just try to try to stir the pot, eh? Like bring back bad memories, like Dan Cluche memes and all that kind of stuff.
It was Taylor's idea, but listen, we showed the goal. Seelovs lets it in from center ice. But anyways, how has he been? Here's the goal, Kevin. Here's the goal.
Well, just ask him how Seelovs has been.
Yeah. Ryan, why are you playing the goal? Anyways, Kevin.
I'm having flashbacks to beer league playoffs here. Like it's happened to me. Okay,
yeah, we heard.
Listen, it hasn't been the year, like he hasn't built off last year to the same degree this year. One of the things about Archers is, and I've talked with Curtis Sanford about this, and I know it's something that they've tried to work on, and it's actually the thing I thought he improved the most last year once he got up to the NHL. Goaltending is like golf at times. You can't just try harder. Like you can't walk up to the first team and be like, I'm going to play great and just swing out of your butt and everything goes great, right? Like you can't try harder. You have to let the game come to you to a certain degree. And Arturs has, in his time over here, had a tendency in periods, not all the time, but the tendency has been to sometimes try too hard rather than letting the game come to him. It's really easy for me to say, it's really hard to do as a goaltender, but that's been the tendency. I always go back to a phrase that James Reimer used because it's so ironic to hear from, but horny. You get a little too horny. You want it. Like, go, 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 go. I got to get it. Like, as opposed to just relax. He goes into save execution a little too early. I thought that was the best part of his performance in the NHL last year. As he came up, there was less and less of that with those 5-game stretch. And so let's see if he can get back to that. He has the capability. We saw him at the World Championships. We know what he's capable of doing. And maybe with a little time up here, we'll see more of that. But that is the tendency. And it has been one of his downfalls this year, is sort of getting back into that mode where as much as it, you want to just work your way out of it or try harder, it doesn't usually go well for a goalie. You really do have to stay with your structure and not go into goalie 911 prematurely. And there's been a little bit of that in his game this season.
We feel the same way before you come on the show, Kevin.
I'm leaving that one alone.
Okay. All right. Short notice, buddy. We appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I didn't have time for the Hawaiian today for you, Ricky. I promise I'll bring it up next time.
Okay, one more look. Move the camera over. Let's take a look at that painting.
The Ken Dryden photo.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
It's not not a photo. That would be my daughter. That's a painting. My daughter did that painting for me because, to tie you guys back to the game.
Yeah.
I don't read because I'm a journalist. It's a bad habit. I read so much on the internet and so many stories that I don't read books. And so during the pandemic, my daughter saw me pick up the game, and I'd read it multiple times before, and she asked me why, and I explained why it meant so much to me. And so she came up with that painting because she could tell that it meant a lot to me. So it was kind of a cool moment.
Oh, that's
nice. Quick add-on. Ken Dryden saw it on the internet and actually reached out to her at some point to talk to her about her art. Pretty cool.
I love this. You're educating Ryan right now because he's never heard of Ken Dryden. So we appreciate this, Kevin.
Yeah.
Hey, next time, boys, we'll go tarps off and show you the tattoos.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, we look forward to that.
Never getting invited back.
Never.
Don't worry, you will. And we'll be excited for it. Okay, Kevin, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.